So today I went on a little exploratory trip to a shop called Cosmic Toys, based in the United Kingdom, in a place called Dewsbury. And I came to them via the Leicester Vintage Toy Shop, which has done this really nice series where the guys from that shop visited lots of other shops in the United Kingdom that sell toys of vintage era, and just sort of give you this very sort of fun insight into their little niche industry. And it's just like sort of, two friends on the road with their cameraman. It's just really lovely. But off the back of that, I discovered that there was a shop not that far from me in West Yorkshire, which also specialises in retro stuff. And as I had a quiet day today, I decided I'd go along and have a look. And the chap you see standing in front of the camera here is called Brawn. He is a Generation 1 mini Autobot that I had when I was little. And he had a particular... he was one of the very few ones that were there. He's slightly damaged, as you can see. I'm showing you his good side because he's missing his silver arm over on this side. But as a result, he was very reasonably priced, and that was kind of what I was going for. I remember him very distinctly from an early Transformers strip in the UK comic run, and I've just discovered, literally just now, that I don't have a reprint version of it, because although I thought I had all the UK comics in a reprinted form, apparently a storyline that involved him predominantly did not make it into this particular collection that I have, which is a shame, because I had a very distinct memory of him and a real sort of characterization of him in my head from when I was little because of that comic strip. It also featured a character called Red Alert, who I had the toy of at the time as well, but I probably only had the toy because he was in that strip. So it's kind of a no-win scenario for me because I can't now show him. But what is interesting about him, and I'll show you this page from the American comic, which we sort of inherited part of. I don't know if you can actually... I've had to put the camera a bit closer than normal because of the size of him. But if you can see him there, in that top middle panel, you see he's only got a claw as a hand, which is exactly the same as the toy. And so his early representations were always very much as the toy. But as time went on, they shifted the representation of the characters more towards what you then see in the cartoons, which is far more sort of humanoid looking with hands and so on than they have as the toys from that particular era, because I think it dawned on them that they couldn't really use them like that sort of down the line. Let's try to see. Is that him there? I'm just trying to find another later image of him, but this isn't the best strip to be doing it from, possibly. But even in this slightly later comic strip, the American comics, he did actually end up, I noticed, with hands. So that claw representation of him didn't last terribly long, which makes sense, I suppose. They wanted to, for the sake of the comics, obviously they can head away from the toys, I guess, as long as they look reasonably like the toys, and they can get away with that. I can't see it there anyway, so I won't waste any more time on that. But it's just, it is very much, for me, he's one of the ones that is really Generation 1 for me, because his initial comic appearance was very much like the toy appearance, and that kind of really sort of drew me in. So he just transforms into a little Land Rover. I'll try and do it at speed, because the other thing I found with modern Transformers is that their transformations, because the robots are so much better than they used to be from as compared with Brawn's era here, they are incredibly complicated for someone as old as me to actually try and do. So I have found it really tough to actually get on with the modern ones. I got the odd modern one for my son, but the transformations are incredibly complicated and incredibly fiddly, and it's just I just sort of left him in the end, and he's not shown a huge amount of interest in them really as concepts go. So I haven't bothered pushing it because there's no particular reason to, obviously. So I've just kind of left it there. Okay, that's one side done. There's no particular point putting this on camera, I don't think, but you can see I'm starting to form up the side, so I'll try and do this on camera. You'll probably see me. What bets I'll snap off an arm now as I try and do this. I've probably got people screaming at me that this isn't the way to do it, but he isn't exactly young, so I'm being a little bit gentle with him. But it has been a long time since I transformed a Brawn, it has to be said. Slot in there. I think that's where he lost his arm, because you've got to get his arm, his silver arm in first, I think, before you can really get the side panel on. I haven't done that terribly convincingly, but the thing that I liked about these when I was little is that you could kind of sneak them into your blazer pocket or whatever for school, and you just had a little tiny little toy, but actually it's two tiny little toys, because actually he's a robot as well, but you know, obviously he's in disguise. So yeah, so that's Brawn. So he's quite cool. I'm going to put him on my little shelf of my Transformer comics. That was part one of my small haul. Another very retro thing that I picked up was this. Now I see these in these sort of vintage retro stores all the time. This one has no stickers, so it was dirt cheap. But what I love about stuff like this is it still works. See? So the completely pointless not leaving the ship missiles still work. I think they're actually intended to be fists for no apparent reason. This is actually a Superman Supermobile. It's by Corgi. You can probably make that out there just about. Yep, there we go. Focused for about a second there. So classic little sort of Corgi die-cast tie-in. But of course Superman is the last person who needs a spaceship. Unless of course the spaceship perhaps can fly faster than he can in space. And maybe if he's going to a red sun-based solar system, it's useful for him to be able to be in a spaceship for the duration of that flight. I'm justifying it madly here, but I've seen several of these, and this I thought was quite a reasonably, apart from its lack of stickers, it's quite a clean version. I think what I like about it most is that it is just exactly what it says on the tin. It's a one-man rocket ship, and it's shaped as such. It's lasted the test of time. I can't see if there's actually that one is dated. It probably is dated. Bear with me a second. This is not a classic example of Blue Peter style of filmmaking, because also I should have done this earlier, but copyright DC Comics 1970, I think. So this was probably old when I originally had on this. It's very hard to focus in on it, actually. I'm just trying to use my phone camera to see if I can pick out the date accurately. I mean, it could have been as old as 1970, I guess. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit more. Oh, 1979. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. Made in Great Britain, yes. As things sometimes were in those days. Marvellous. Yeah, it is a supermobile. That's all it is, apparently. Might even have had wheels ones, actually. I'm not sure, but no, actually, I don't think it did have wheels. But anyway, so yeah, so those are these. Yeah, so 1979. So that's what, 43 years old now, and it's still going, and its plastic bits are still there, and it's still got its cockpit intact, and there's still a sort of a red plastic blob in it to represent Superman. So there you go. That's quite cool. It's a little thing that I remember from my childhood. Just gets added to my my sort of Corgi shelf. So let's jump ahead a few years. Let's jump ahead to the future, or going back to it. Now, for some reason, I don't have a DeLorean in my collections, and obviously this is quite a modern version of it for for me. I'm not intending to get it out of its box. I don't think. I'll probably just leave it in its box for display purposes. But as soon as I saw it on the shelf, A, it was reasonably priced, and B, I thought I quite like it because it's got the a little food processor unit that gives it fusion power from the end of the original movie. So I thought that was quite a nice one. And of course, as only when I got it home, I realised it is indeed the Back to the Future 2 version of the DeLorean. So I think that's quite cool. The shop does sort of mix it up. It's got a whole range of stuff. Some of it's more modern than others, but it's got a massive sort of vintage collection to it as well. I think I've seen this elsewhere, but I've not actually picked it up to up until this point. Okay, interesting. So, what else, you might ask? Well, let's I'm just trying to think. Well, let me go. Probably, yeah. It might even be the same time. Probably not vastly different time wise to the Back to the Future in terms of when the original show it was based on was released, but this is from a series I really enjoyed at the time, and that okay, so that's not very fixed down. So as you will see there, this is the Batmobile from Batman the Animated Series. Now, there was a point in time in the, I want to say sort of mid-ish 90s, where Warner Brothers they'd released the big sort of really popular Keaton Batman film in 1989, but then they had this animated arm as well, and this animated arm did this really beautiful sort of, how best to describe it, almost sort of 1950s gothic sort of style Batman animated series, but with quite modern technology in it. So arguably it was styled more like the sort of like maybe like the 1920s or something like that. You know, it was really clever, quite a dark series as well, but really cleverly done. And this was the rather unique Batmobile from that series. And I think this is actually made by Eagle Moss. And as you probably know, I do a lot of Eagle Moss unboxings here, and I've got the 1989 Batmobile version from this series as well. But there are a number of these in the store today, and I thought it would be rude not to. I'd actually intended to get the Bat Jet from this series, and I completely missed it because I got lost in conversation with the very nice owner of the store. But anyway, so this is the as you can see, the stylings are quite sort of unusual because the cockpit is very subtle. So it's got this really sort of long front body to the Batmobile, and it's all very sort of encased inside it. The wheels aren't out there. It hasn't got any sort of ridiculously huge fins. So it just looks it's just a little bit different. But as I say, I really love that series. And if you've never caught it, I'm sure you'll find that you will find clips of it on YouTube. And it led into the Batman Beyond series, which I always really liked as well. Just sort of took it to the next generation up, really. So if you've not seen those, do have a look at them on YouTube because they are pretty cool stuff. I also think that's when Mark Hamill started doing he started voicing the Joker for that series. That's one of the voice acting roles that he's known for these days, is playing the Joker in that. So I'm now on... Oh no, I'm not quite on my final one actually, but I'll show you this one first. Now this is not the one that I bought today, but this is kind of partly why I bought the one that I bought today. So this is... now this is Clue from Tron Legacy, which was the reimagining of the original Tron film, which has just hit 40 years old. And I think this is, I think they did a really nice job of it. I know it's not, I don't really know exactly how popular it ended up being commercially, but it's, I think stylistically I really enjoyed it, and I love the Daft Punk music from it as well. I think they did a terrific job of that as well. But today I came across some more in this line in the store, and so I ended up with this, which is Clue's command chip. So I mean, obviously the box is very tattered, so I am going to get it out of the box because there's no point keeping that for the sake of it. It's pretty, it's seen its day, I think it's fair to say. But I just thought it would be nice to add it to my collection because my son's got these, I think, elsewhere. But he's got a sort of a couple of the examples of the Aero Fighters that were also in it, which were new. So we got the original Light Cycles reimagined, but we also got these Aero Fighters, which were new. And this is kind of one of those, but it's actually a sort of a command ship for the evil program Clue, who would very much like to get into our world, as it turns out. And the thing I like about these, if I could actually get it out, which would be helpful. So they are die cast. So basically, nothing is going to stop. Nothing is going to destroy that anytime soon because it is in quite an old school fashion. It's pretty solid die cast, and actually it feels relatively light. So maybe it's not all die cast. But the top surface definitely is. This is one of those ones where I'm assuming it flies in that direction. So it's kind of hard to know, but I think it's engines of these things at the back. So yeah, I'll add that to the little Tron Legacy collection that we have. I mean, when I bought them originally, they were actually available through Amazon. So I dare say a few shops like this one might still have them on Amazon or equivalent. So you know that it would remain an option. So the final thing I got was this little chap. I have no idea why I got him. He just amused me. I don't even know exactly what flavour of figurine make he is. I think he might be a sort of Funko Pop variant. I'm not quite sure. I don't collect those, so I'm not very familiar with him. But having got him, I didn't even look at him that closely when he was in the cabinet because I just fancied him because it's put next to my Aliens comics because he's quite small. But what I like is the attention to detail on him because this is kind of like the original Alien from the original film, the very, very first one, because he's got a completely smooth head. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but in the original Alien film, you don't get the ridges that you get in the Aliens film. He's also got very accurate little spikes. I don't know if you can make this out on the back of him there, but he's got very accurate sort of that top horn in the middle, and then the four little tubes, which is classic Alien style. I think they've toned down his tail. He doesn't have a scythe on the end of his tail, which aliens normally have. So maybe they have to make him look a little bit more friendly. But even his fingers are pretty bob on because he's got the double fingers that are sort of together. So actually, they've done a very accurate job whilst making it look like a sort of a funny little thing. So I rather appreciated that. And that was my last of my haul on this particular visit. But I do think it was all reasonably priced in there. I don't think he was taking the Michael, and as they often are in these places, in my experience, he was very, very helpful, telling me all sorts of interesting stuff about other things that were available, and we just had a generally sort of nice chat. But I must have spent. It took me a good solid couple of hours just to wander around and look at everything because he's got this immense range of stuff over 2 floors, and it was just lovely to see it all there, sort of well displayed. Just really nice, and it really took me back to probably back to childhood days and thereabouts. So it's really nice to see all this sort of stuff again, and I got a couple of bits that I was after, and I'm sure I will be back again in due course because there's just such a range of stuff there. Also comics, graphic novels, didn't even get into that section because I have most things that I want at this point in time. I think it's fair to say. But no, just a really great place. So if you happen to be in West Yorkshire at any point in time, you could make a note to drop in there, because it's just a wonderful little place to mooch around really for an afternoon if you are so inclined. So that's it for my adventures for today. I shall leave you there and see you again. Cheers for now.